All right, so this week it's not going to be super dense. We're just going to be talking about GitHub and then going over the problem statement, which will not be recorded for viewers at home. Don't know if they want us recording that or not, and putting it publicly on YouTube, so I won't. But for anybody who missed this week, it will be posted in the advanced web channel. All right, so if you haven't already gotten a GitHub account, I imagine you do, then go ahead and get that set up. It is free. You can go to github.com and use an email that you have access to. That's been a problem, so I have to say that. And so what I'm saying is not your school email, so that you have this in perpetuity, because this will be good resume candy for later when you start looking for internships and all that fun stuff. So this is my personal GitHub account. This is my feed. So I've got a couple of projects in here already, including some for work, as well as personal ones, mostly Penny. I didn't realize how many projects I had open there, but GitHub is a free code hosting service, and you can host code, you can host other files here as well. I use it as a backup for one of my classes at UMSL for all my videos, because Canvas ate it a few semesters ago. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new repository, and depending on, so we've been working, I don't think we've worked with Git actually, but when we were creating our create React app script, it actually did us a favor and created a .git for us, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to show you how to create a repository both on this site and then pull it on your computer, and also create a repo in the command line with a pre-existing project. So the owner will of course be me, and I'm going to name this demo and delete me to remind myself later to delete it. I'm going to make it a private repo for now. So GitHub changed in the last couple of years when Microsoft purchased it. They actually made private repositories part of the free account. There's still premium features, but a lot of that is more advanced stuff like GitHub Actions, which are pretty cool. I'll probably show you one of those that I have for a personal project, but most of everything is free now. So in your own accounts, you should be able to create a private repo, and I'm going to leave it as private. For me, that's actually default. You may have to change that. You can also optionally add a README, an empty README file, and a git ignore template, which is awesome. I like to set one up for Node. So that git ignore, which we'll go over, is going to automatically have things like the node modules folder, because you don't want to be publishing the node modules folder to Git, because that is a massive folder potentially. And then license, I don't really care what you choose as a license. I think there's not really a default, but all of these are literally free. And then well, maybe not all of them. Most of these are public, meaning that anybody could use it as long as they give you credit. So create repository, and in order to copy this down, now this, I just realized I'm on my work computer, so it may require setup on yours, but in order to copy this down, assuming that you have the Git command line tool already installed, which I certainly do. To verify you have Git installed, by the way, you can do git-v as in Victor, and you can do that for pretty much every command line tool, and it'll tell you, sometimes it likes the full word, but either -v or -- version, every command line tool is going to tell you that. So I'm verifying here that Git is installed. So what we're about to do is clone a repository. HTTPS for a private repository, this may actually kick me back, but I am actually logged in as my own account. So you will need to log in with your Git credentials and get permission to this repo in order to pull it. So I'm going to put this clone link in the advanced web channel, but the command is git clone and the link that I just copied. I'll send that up. Oh, yeah. And you won't be able to pull this just yet because I don't have your emails. So I don't have permissions set up for this account or for this repo. In fact, I'm going to make it public. We can go over that later. So you will be able to pull it. So if you made a mistake, you want to make a repo public or private, you can go to settings, general, and at the bottom here where it says danger zone, you can change the visibility, make it public, and you have to type in all of this, to confirm. That wasn't my password. Yeah. That's my password. There we go. All right. So it says it's already public, which is weird because I selected private, but whatever. All right. So when you do git clone and then the link that I just posted in the advanced web channel, it's probably not going to ask for your credentials. We'll get those set up later. But, and I also don't want this on my home repo. So I'm going to go to EPA, git clone, and the link. Bear with me. All right, when we ls in the command line, I should see demo delete me. Demo delete me. And we see that we're on the main branch. Older projects, they may have the master branch. They're the same thing. They just changed it to main like a year ago. And we can open this in code. And we should see, depending on what plugins you have on code, I think this one's built in. We can see in the bottom left corner that we are on the main branch. You may have seen this in the create React app script. It may have said master, but this one actually has an upstream repository attached to it, meaning whenever we push stuff, it's going to go to GitHub. And we'll talk about push in a moment, but let's look at this git ignore now. The git ignore file will have most of everything we'll ever need actually. But this is stuff that you don't want Git to push up to the repository for whatever reason. And a good example of that would be the node modules folder, because we're already pulling those ultimately from GitHub. NPM usually hosts off of GitHub or mirrors, but you don't want to be pushing someone else's code in your own repository, because for one, that would take forever. And two, the package JSON will outline all of the packages that we need for the project. And then we have other crap like npm debug logs, other logs, NYC output. That's a plugin that we haven't talked about, but NYC is pretty cool. ESLint cache, and this one is important too. I don't think we talked about environment variables. So when we go over the practice statement, we're going to look at this, but the .env will typically house secrets, stuff that you definitely don't want in GitHub, such as AWS keys or your username and password for the database that we created, stuff like that. And then there's, dist, that's for builds. Some of this is more important for React, and a lot of this is stuff we're not even using, but it's good to have this as a baseline. And then the README right now is empty, but I'm going to demonstrate a push, and almost everything that you can do with Git can be done in code by default, I think. If you're not seeing the buttons I'm seeing, let me know. Let me open the chat. But I don't think the only Git related plugin I have is Git Blame, which this plugin, it shows me who created a commit. So we can see at the bottom, it says blame Mike 5 minutes ago, because I created the repo when I hover over this line. And if either of you push code to this repo, and I put my mouse on that line, then I'm going to see blame Tejas or blame Andy or whoever pushed it, which is pretty cool because you know who to blame or who to ask whenever you see code that you don't quite understand. So I'll just make a quick push. Now I'm going to show you how to do this in the command line and code. It's really up to you. It's preference. I almost always use code, but sometimes I have to do stuff in the command line because of linter errors or some other stuff like that. So we can see when I made that change on the left side, this button right here, this is our Git or our source control button. We see a 1. That means there's one file that has a change in it that is not on the upstream branch. So we can review the changes on the left and the right, what the old file was with the new. Anything that's green will be anything that was added, and anything that was deleted. Oh, I always forget which one. Anything that was deleted or replaced will be shown with red. So in order to stage your changes, because maybe you've got a bunch of changes, but you want them in separate commits, you can stage just a couple of files at a time. And up here, this button will stage all files, or all changes rather, into the commit. So we're going to stage them. That means we're putting a letter in an envelope, but we haven't sent it yet. In the message, it's going to be, try to be descriptive. I should follow my own advice on that one. A lot of times I just put stuff like, thank God, because I found a bug. My company doesn't really put a lot of stock in the messages, but some companies do. And it'll be helpful if you pushed up code that maybe you didn't want to push up. Maybe it turned out to have a bug in it or something. Then you can easily revert that code later, which we'll also talk about. So I'll just put edited README. And here we are sealing the envelope. Sync changes. This is same as a push. Click this button and it'll push it upstream. What? Why? All right, I don't know why it's doing this because I just pushed literally today, but whatever. It shouldn't do that for you. That's probably a company thing. I guess it pushed me out at some point, but anyway, when I refresh this page, I should see the README has been changed and I can look at the commits. So there's only been 2 commits here. I can click on that to see its full history and I can see my message. Initial commit is by default what's created when a repository is created, and then everything thereafter will have messages. Simple enough. All right. So now let's do this in the command line. Keep forgetting about this. Second push. So in the command line, obviously, it takes a little more getting used to. In my particular setup, I have it changing colors whenever there are changes or not. You just saw it was green before I cleared. Actually, I could just scroll up. Green meaning there are no changes. I have the latest version from upstream, and yellow means there's a change or two that I may want to look at. So I can do git stage, and I don't really need to add anything, but you can add specific files using git stage by referencing the file name. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to git stage all. Oops. You need a period. So git stage everything that has a change in this directory. And it's recursive as well. So it'll check any subdirectories in your project as well. So I'm going to stage everything. Everything is staged. If I look at code, I can see that it is now in the stage changes header. And I can also do a git unstage. I think it's unstage. No, they changed it. I don't remember what it is, but more than likely you're probably going to be using code. But we can also do a commit here. So git commits -m for message, and in quotes, whatever the message is. So that'll commit everything that is currently staged, and it'll tell me, 1 file change, 2 insertions, 1 deletion, and finally git push. And then it'll send it off to the network. So I'll reload the page again. I should be able to see my second commit. It did exactly the same thing, but code allows you to do all that stuff using a GUI, which for some people is easier. Some people prefer the command line for some reason. Those people are crazy. But that's all we're going to do for the command line, just because other stuff can be more complex and it's easier to do that in code. There's also GitHub Desktop, which I like to use, which I have open right here. And if you don't have it, this is published by GitHub and it's free. It wraps everything that you could possibly do in Git in the command line in a GUI as well. So for this particular project, I can see there's a bunch of branches that were merged in, and I can click on any one of them and look at what's going on, what the fixes were. And if I wanted to, I'm not going to do it because this is my work project, but if I don't like a change for whatever reason, I can right click and revert changes in commit. I'm not going to click this. It's not going to push it, but it's going to screw up my my branch on board, so I'm not going to do that. But this is one of the powerful things about Git, and that's why when you create your commits, you want generally a somewhat descriptive message of what it is that you did, and all of the files that were changed should be somewhat related to each other. So if we're working on our authentication code for the problem statements, either one, and you've got a bunch of files that are changed from maybe other stories you were working on at the same time, you only want to commit the ones that are related to authentication because of this reason, because you may want to revert it in the future. And also, if you don't have GitHub Desktop, the link is posted in the advanced web channel. So now, actually, when I said I was done with the command line, I lied. So most of the time, you don't want to push directly to main or master ever, especially when you have an app that multiple people are working on, because that could screw some things up for someone else's work. And it could also render the app unusable if you pushed up on incomplete code to main, or to main. So what you want to do instead when you're working on a new story is create a new branch. And I, for whatever reason, prefer to do this in the command line. So, and I'll show you how to do it in code as well, but git branch -b as in Bravo, lowercase, and the name of your new branch. So in this case, maybe I want to add authentication. So I would name this branch authentication. Unknown switch B. Oh, it's a capital B. What? Git branch. Oh, checkout. I'm an idiot. Git checkout. Branch is what you use to switch branches. So git checkout -b authentication. Git checkout is the same command that you use to switch branches that already exist. Git branch is to list all the branches that you have on board your machine. And using a -b says that if it doesn't exist, create it. So that's what we're doing now. There we go. So now I can use git branch to verify that I have these two branches, main and authentication. Authentication, there's no way to know that authentication is not posted into GitHub from here at least. So if I refresh the page and I click on the main dropdown, I'm only going to see my main branch. Or the branch drop down rather. And I can verify here that there's only one because I haven't pushed it yet. So in order to get out of this, escape, enter, Q, there we go. So :Q to get out of that, because that opens like a watered down version of Vim for some reason when you do that. But so we created that branch. Now we can make a couple of changes, and I'm going to show you how to do a pull request. So I just added something to the README. I'm going to click on that to see what the changes are, because sometimes you leave console logs in there. So I like to review my changes before I actually wrap them up before I stage them. So I can click on the plus, edited README, and click on this check mark to create a commit. Now the commits, again, they're basically letters and they're in a mailbox right now. But USPS hasn't come by to pick them up yet. I haven't told this to push. So I can make a bunch of different commits if I want before pushing for whatever reason. Maybe, I don't know. That's really personal preference. There's not a functional reason why you would keep them on board, but you want to push as often as possible. And I say that because I've had a computer fail on me when I had a bunch of code and computer just broke and all that work I did that day was lost. That was when I was working at Bayer. So that was when I was working on what they pay me to work on. So that was even worse. I lost a whole days of work because of that. But so I push often now. So in the command line, I could do Git Push. Now, code will do this for you automatically, which is why I switched to the command line. It's going to say that there's no upstream branch named authentication. It's only local. So it actually gives you the exact command that you can run in order to tie your local branch authentication to the GitHub branch authentication. So you can copy this and paste it. So it created the new branch. It pushed everything it had in there. And if I refresh this page right now, we're not going to see that change that I pushed into README because we're on a different branch. So we could see what other branches, what's the contents of other branches are by switching here. And we can see that the README is different. And if we had any files here, we'd have to click in and see what changed specifically. But it also tells you it's one commit ahead of main and that it's never been merged into main. So we're going to do a PR, which it gives us the option to right up here. And a PR is a pull request that basically says, I've completed whatever story it is I'm working on in this branch, and you want to create a pull request so that your other team members can see what was changed. So I'm going to click compare pull request. Oh, and if this doesn't show up because maybe you completed the branch a little bit ago, you don't want to merge it yet for whatever reason, and you don't see this up here, because this will only show up for like the first 5 minutes after you push to a branch, I think. So you can click on branches, go to authentication. We can see, it was updated 3 minutes ago and I'm the owner, or at least the one who pushed it last. Click authentication. Where's the button? I guess it just shows up here for if you're on the branch, but if you're on the main branch, it doesn't. Oh, right. You have to do it from here. So go to pull requests, new pull request. And on the left side is what branch you'll want to merge into. Most of the time it's going to be main. And on the right side is what branch you want to merge into main. Select authentication. Down here we can see all the stuff that was changed in this branch that is different from main, and create pull request. And here you can, some companies have like a format that they want you to use for the pull request. Sometimes they use Jira and they want to link to the Jira story. There could be checkboxes that remind people to do stuff like unit tests, things of that nature. But for our purposes, you don't really need anything, maybe just a short description of what it is you did, and create pull request. So now we can see all the open pull requests, and I'm going to show you the PRs for, this is a web app, or a mobile app rather, that we are writing at work. And you can see there's a bunch of different pull requests. We got a lot of people working on this app. And this one is mine from today. So you could see in the description, I put in a lengthy description to describe exactly what it is I'm doing, a screenshot of the change I made, the Jira issue, like I said, and a quality checklist. And that serves as a reminder for us, it depends on how you want to run the show. This is just what I do at work, and it might be a little much for, a weekend project, but we can see my coworker, Trent. He has some suggestions for me that I'll show you how to make. He wants me to move this into a different folder. Same thing with this guy. And I forgot what he said. Yeah, an extra space. He's a little picky, but things like that, that you can critique your coworkers on when they create a PR. So that's what they're meant for. So he actually approved the PR despite those changes, but you can also reject a PR and block me from actually merging this in if you wanted to, for whatever reason. So I'm going to click in edit README, and I can review my own PR. So in order to start a review, I don't think I can review it actually, but I can click on the right side, files changed. And if I want to review a specific thing, I can click on any line number with a plus. And I don't know why it didn't work just now. I can usually drag this down. Oh, okay, yeah. So I can drag it down to highlight both of these lines and say something about this line that I want changed. This code sucks. And start review. So that'll let the idiot who wrote this PR know that I've got changes that I suggest they make. Now, if I'm otherwise satisfied with this PR, I can click finish your review on the right side. And I could either leave a comment, approve it, or request changes. Request changes, seriously? Okay, well, if this wasn't my PR, I could click request changes, and I can add additional feedback and leave comments. Something like, do we really need to do this right now? Or I found a bug or whatever the heck. Or I can approve it. And of course, I can't approve my own PR either. But you see the result of that. So if you want to have a review process for your PRs, I would suggest waiting until at least one other person approves a project before allowing it to merge. In fact, on this GitHub, well, this doesn't help me here. So another PR, let's look at this one. This one has no reviews. So he's actually, and I think by extension, I'm actually unable to merge. It says merging is blocked because there has to be one approving review. We're not going to set that up in GitHub for our purposes. Again, that should, if you're going to do this, it should just be a trust system basically, but we've set up our GitHub to actually block merging so that one guy can't just merge stuff in without anybody else looking at it at all. So that's probably saved us dozens of times. But we could see I do have an approving PR, and I can scroll to the bottom. And if I wanted to, well, it won't let me because of this either. But in fact, I should just click that. Another requirement that we have that you see is I have to keep this up to date with master. So if there's any code that's in master that's not in this branch, then it's going to tell me, hey, you want to update your branch, and it won't let me merge. But when all these checks are completed, and this is an additional thing, again, your project doesn't need to have these. This is just running all of our unit tests to make sure that this thing is good to go. But once this is done, and assuming all of these pass, there will be a little button on the right side that'll say merge pull request, which we can see here. So there's also a couple of different types of merges. So I can just click this button and it'll merge, every commit as an individual commit. There's also squash and merge, which will take all of the commits, compress them into one single commit, and then merge it, which is what I prefer to do. And rebase and merge, I never use this, and truth be told, I don't really know what it does. If you do, great, share with the class, but I've never used it a day in my life. So when you click on either squash and merge or rebase or whatever, this will become the default for all future pull requests. And again, there's probably a setting somewhere that says to only allow squash and merge, which is also kind of handy. Because if you have an org with like 20 developers, like I do, at least on this app, then you don't want them all doing different stuff. So you can set a lot of stuff in GitHub to do that, and all that can be found in settings. I'm not going to go over those, but they're there. So I can squash and merge. That doesn't really do us any good because we only have one commit. So both of these buttons will basically do the same thing anyway, but we're going to do squash and merge anyway. It is now merged and closed. So if we go back to code, and we can see we still have the two branches, but that thing I pushed in that new branch is now here. I'm going kind of lightning speed right now. Is there any questions at all or confusion on how this works? I see nothing in the chat. I'm hearing no voices, so we're good. So again, you don't really have to do this. It's just a strong suggestion that you do for the project, because there's going to be no less than 3 of you working on that project. assuming everyone's available. So everyone pushing to the main branch is going to be kind of a cluster. You really don't want to do that because one or two of you may have a file change that's, or two of you at least may have changed one file, and that can cause a merge conflict. And that's something that's better handled in a pull request than it is in the main branch. So we can now switch back to our main branch in the command line. So git checkout main. Notice I'm not putting the -b because I'm not creating a new branch. And this lies, it says your branch is up to date with origin main. Origin meaning, I think this probably references local, I guess, because we have changes in the GitHub branch that we haven't yet pulled. So in order to pull those changes, you can press git pull or type git pull, or you can click this button that'll both pull and push. It'll synchronize. I have nothing to push, so it's only going to pull. But when I do it in the command line, it'll tell me a summary of the changes. So in this case, just the README file was changed. There are 3 line changes. There's one added, one taken away, and another added. So 2 insertions, 1 deletion, and 1 file changed. So now I have the latest version of main on my computer. So if we're all working on the same project and a PR was merged, typically you're going to want to do a poll as often as possible to make sure that you have all of the latest and greatest code. So that's just a habit of mine. Every time I open up a project, like this is a personal project, I won't have anything here. Yeah, so I actually just updated the branch in this when you saw me do it. So maybe I'm about to do some additional work on this, all the things that Trent wanted me to do. So I want to get pull to make sure I have all the changes that were previously merged. In this case, there weren't any, which is, oh, I'm in a different branch. Git checkout. Enhanced scan. Round 2. Yeah, so now this one, for whatever reason, is telling me that I am, in fact, 2 commits behind. So I can do a git pull. So Git is going to warn you. I don't know why it doesn't warn me on this one, but whatever. So I can see there were some changes to login page redirect. And I also like to read these to make sure that nothing that I'm messing with in this branch has been changed, because that could cause some issues for me. But in this case, I got nothing, so good to go. So I'm going to try and force a merge conflict so we can see what those are and how to deal with them. So I'm going to create a new branch, git checkout -b merge conflict. And I'm going to make some changes actually to the same line right here. I'll take away an H and I'll commit. Forcing conflict. And I'm going to go to the main branch, git checkout main. And I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to add a few letters. So because those changes that I made in the 2 separate branches are on 2 different or on the same line, when I try to merge one into the other, it's going to tell me that there's a merge conflict. At least I hope it will. So you can typically, I'm going to do this the way I normally do it. So I like to merge branches. If I'm not creating a PR to merge into the main branch, if maybe I'm trying to update my current branch with whatever new changes are in main, I'll do that on my local machine because I won't have a PR up and it won't tell me to update the branch. And when you create your repo for this project, it's not going to tell you that either because it's a setting that you have to that you have to flip. So I'm going to go back to the merge conflict branch and I will open GitHub Desktop. So to set up GitHub Desktop with a new repo, by default, there's not going to be anything here. It doesn't know what's all on your machine. In this case, I've got my 2 work things and my personal project, but I want to add demo delete me. So I click on add an existing repository because I already have this repo in existence. And I'll find it on my machine. Projects, BPA, demo delete me. And I can just select the folder. Add repository. So I should be able to see the commit history. Awesome. Now I'm working on this branch. I know one of my other teammates merged in whatever they were working on recently. I want to get that into this branch as well. Just good practice. So I'm going to select branch, merge into current branch, and it's going to give me whatever choices there are. And I can already see it tells me that there's going to be a conflict that I have to deal with if I were to do this merge. This is actually why you want to merge main into your working branch often, because you may run into these and it's easier to fix 1 or 2 conflicts than to fix like a whole mess of them. So create merge commit, and it'll tell me, you know, you got this one conflict, deal with it. So open in Visual Studio Code, and code will make this nice and easy. There's accept current change or accept incoming change. I can also choose to accept both. And I can also compare the changes side by side if I want. So I like the change that's in main. So I'm going to click incoming change. And we see there's a merge changes header here that shows, you know, these things are conflicted, deal with it. Click the plus to stage it. And it's already going to have a merge commit message in there for you, merge branch main into merge conflict, and check. And now I can publish the branch from here. And when I create a PR, I won't see any issues. So does everyone understand what I just did? If you're confused about something, let me know, because otherwise I'm just going to keep going. All right, everyone's green. So I'm going to publish this branch, and there's really not going to be any changes because I just merged master into it and I overwrote a change, but it gives me the option to create a pull request anyway. So if I see that there is a PR, and this is already in, this shouldn't show up. Is this showing up? Huh. Oh, because it didn't push. So git checkout main, git push. That's why. So if I refresh the page, I should see 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So when I click on compare pull request, we should see that, yeah, this shouldn't even show up either, but it's deleting one line and replacing it with the exact same line. So this shouldn't even be showing up, but it does. So another good reason to compare and make sure everything's good to go before you create a PR out of this. So now that we've done all that, and again, if there's something that you're missing, then the video is going to be posted after the class. But now we're going to create a new repo locally, and then we're going to push to GitHub. Previously, we created the repo here in GitHub, and then we pulled it. So I'm going to back out of this. Create a new folder. So just like any other project, make directory another example. I'll cd into another example, and this doesn't have a .git file attached to. In fact, I'll show you what that is. So if you do ls-a, and this should work on both a Windows and a Mac, that shows everything that's in the folder, including hidden files. So the .git file is a hidden file. And if we take a look at it, cat.git, oh, right, cd.git, it's a folder. ls, we can see a bunch of stuff. You never want to mess with this, but the .git folder houses all the information about the history of your project, what branches it's got, all that fun stuff. We're not going to dig in there, but that's what that is. So if we go into that folder we just created, which I already forgot the name of it, another example, ls-a, we could see, well, there's nothing in here at all, but it also doesn't have a Git folder. So in order to create one, we can do git init. So it'll initialize .git, and we can configure it to push upstream. So this might push to my work version, so I need to make sure. If it pushes to my work version, I could show you it there. It's going to be the same steps. So right now, git branch, we have no branches. So it's not possible for us to publish this to GitHub yet. GitHub creates our base branch for us. So again, we can do :q to get out of there. And we can do git branch -m, and we'll name it main. You can either name it main or master. Honestly, you can name it whatever you want, but you want to stick with trunk. Whatever. You want to stick with either master or main because that's just the convention. Actually main, because that's the newer convention. So I'm going to create that branch. The -m says that I'm going to make it the main branch. And if I do git branch again, then I can see what? Why? Oh, that's weird. I guess it just renamed it main. It doesn't show up in branches for some reason. But I can do git publish, and I don't do this often, so I need to read up on what it does. Oh, sorry. So there is. Oh, you know what? It's probably git push. So git push, if you just do it by itself, it doesn't have a remote repository to attach to yet. It doesn't know where it's going. So we can do use these commands, specify the URL from the command line, or configure a remote repository using git remote add, name, and URL. So git remote add, and I'm going to give it the name of same as the project name. So another example. And the URL is going to be, I believe that's the URL of my user. I'm going to give that a shot. So github.com/mwine, and it probably wants the full thing here. So I'm going to try both just to see what happens. And git push. Here we go. All right, so git remote add and the name of our project and the URL that it's hosted on. In this case, it's going to be the URL of my user. So github.com/mwine. And then I'm going to do a git push, and it's going to tell me, I'm sorry. Yeah, git push main. So I'm pushing the main branch, and it has no upstream branch right now. So I need to set it. So git push set upstream main. Did it create it with master? I bet it did. It didn't create it at all. I'm going to try this one again, / another example.git. Remote another example already exists. Of course it does. So what's going on? Another example. Nope. So it doesn't exist. I don't know why it's telling me it does. You know what? I think just creating the repo in GitHub itself is probably going to be easier because I have not done this in a while. But that's pretty much all I wanted to go over with Git and how to use it. And you're going to get more experience using it collaboratively as you're doing it with the practice problem statement. So I'm going to stop recording so we can go over that. Here is, can I not stop recording from here? Hang on.